Here are the men that should stop doing crimes. Number 10. Cucumber shotgun. Gary Ruff, a Glasgow plumber, was not thinking of the severe consequences when he accepted a dare, as he claims, to burglarize bookies with a cucumber stuffed inside of a black sock. The incident occurred at Ladbrokes, a small sports betting hub in the UK. Prosecutors divulged that Ruff armed himself with a long cylindrical object covered in a black sock when he went to the counter for cash. Witnesses of the crime scene claimed the sock sheathed vegetable looked like a sawed-off shotgun. Ruff brandished the weapon at an employee who, although terrified, refused to hand over the cash. And the next thing you know, an off-duty police officer who happened to be in the shop knocked the would-be burglar to the ground with a single blow. Everyone present was stunned when a cucumber was revealed inside the sock and not a sawed-off shotgun. As Ruff was handcuffed, he tried to claim he was only joking and was acting on a dare. Finally comprehending the gravity of his actions, he remarked, "It was a cucumber. Am I going to jail for this?" Ruff later claims, "I think it was quite stupid. I am not a robber. It was a laugh that went too far." Ruff received 3 years for his attempt to hold up the bookie with a sock-covered vegetable. He admitted in court that he was quite stupid for trying to pull it off. His attorney's take on the crazy cucumber scheme was, while he was aware that it was a vegetable in a sock, he is also aware that it may have appeared different to others. It's too bad he didn't think about this before he armed himself with a cucumber and a black sock. What would have happened if the robbery had worked? If the bookie had handed over all the cash? Number 9. Selfie Burglar. Ashley Keast is the worst burglar ever, and it's safe to say that we agree. Keast and an accomplice burglarized a home and made quite the haul while the owners were away on vacation. Their loot, cash, jewelry, an Audi A4, a Rolex, and the item that helped them earn the title mentioned above, a SIM card. Keast puts the stolen SIM card in another phone and takes a selfie. Here's where the story gets crazy. He posted the image on WhatsApp, and unknowingly, Keast also sent the picture to the victim's work colleagues, who became suspicious and contacted the police. The police arrived at Keast's home the next day and arrested him. They also found cash and the Rolex hidden behind a radiator. Keast also admitted being in breach of a suspended sentence and received 2 years and 8 months for his idiotic crimes. His partner received 18 months. We can't help but wonder if law enforcement might agree with the headline, given that Keast's selfie made this the easiest crime they'd ever solve. Number 8. Fired ATM. Would-be thieves in Everett, Washington accidentally set fire to the ATM they were trying to break into. Then they attempted to extinguish the flames by peeing on the fire. Here's how this bungled burglary played out. They ripped open the wall underneath the ATM and took a blowtorch to the metal box that held the money. The cash caught fire. Then they peed on the fire to salvage the operation. When they realized all their dreams were going up in smoke, they fled. Firefighters and police were called to the scene when fire alarms went off and extinguished the fire. Once the smoke cleared, there was $35,000 worth of damage to the ATM, including the cash. The suspects were easily identified by surveillance camera footage that caught the entire incident on tape. Perhaps Monster Energy Drink appreciated the free publicity from the footage. Number 7. Milton Hodges. The details in this story sound like the subplot in a Quentin Tarantino movie. Milton Hodges, a homeless man, was on the run after being accused of an armed robbery at a Kangaroo Express store in Kissimmee, Florida. He looked to hide in a local Lowe's, claiming he was just browsing for mango and banana trees. Next thing you know, Hodges was holding scissors to an innocent clerk's neck. Thankfully, the clerk escaped, and Hodges was chased out of the store by customers and employees. Hodges then climbed a wall and landed hard on the other side. However, he stuck out like a sore thumb. He had just climbed the fence to Cypress Cove Nudist Resort. He pulled a knife from his pants, threatened a security guard, and stole a golf cart. Let's not forget that he was the only person wearing pants. Hodges didn't get very far. Sheriff's deputies easily spotted him as the only clothed individual in the resort. Number 6. IOU Note. A UK financial advisor for Halifax Bank finally was arrested for stealing over millions of pounds from the bank he worked for and 84 of his clients. How'd he get caught? An auditor found a signed IOU for £7 million in the safe. Are we sure this isn't Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber? Graham Price got 12 years of jail time after a court learned the money had been used to bet on horse races, among other gambling debts. Price bought information from tipsters and shares in 13 horses. He had paid off mortgages Hodges enjoyed lavish vacations, bought luxury cars, and was quite unsuccessful in betting on the internet. Price achieved this by bilking the bank he worked at for 4 years. A short time considering the millions he amassed and subsequently lost. Many of his victims were elderly and faced not only devastating financial losses, but uncertain futures. Halifax insists they are not responsible for customers conned by Price when he acted in his private capacity as a financial advisor. Number 5. Wrong bar. Would-be robbers picked the wrong night to burglarize this bar. Wearing ski masks and waving machetes, 2 men took a Sydney, Australia bar by storm, yelling at customers to hit the floor as they made their way to the cash registers. As the thieves entered the club, they failed to notice 50 motorcycles parked outside. Inside, the Southern Cross Cruiser Club had just started a meeting. The bikers picked up anything that wasn't bolted to the floor and fought back against the would-be robbers in what might be the most failed robbery of all time. One of the masked men crashed through a glass door, jumped off a balcony, and ended up in the hospital. And the other wound up hogtied. Both of the men, whose names were never released publicly, were arrested and charged with attempted armed robbery. Seriously, how did they not notice all the bikes parked out front? Number 4. Dr. Ears. Sometimes having a distinctive physical feature works against you. In the case of David Holyoke, his ears, which earned him the nickname Shrek, became a huge liability as he pursued a career in crime. Holyoke and his cohorts shattered a glass security window, got behind the counter, and stole cash after wielding a sledgehammer and threatening staff. There were witnesses, and of course, the burglary was caught on CCTV. Police quickly ID'd Holyoke since witnesses cited his ears as the most distinctive feature about his face. Before Holyoke and his gang could be arrested, they struck again as an armored truck delivered money to a post office. As the security guard walked in with the cash, Holyoke and his crew, masked this time, pulled up in a car, jumped out, and followed the guard. Unbeknownst to Holyoke, and a sign of poor planning skills, a police surveillance car was following the armored van. The driver saw the men run inside and radioed the guard to warn him of an attack. They were successful in stealing the cash box and fled in a getaway car. Unfortunately, the escape vehicle plowed right into a tree. Several of the robbers escaped on foot. Holyoke and 2 other gang members hid in a garden and were apprehended. Holyoke was sentenced to 3.5 years for robbery. One officer commented, "This man only needs to look at himself in the mirror to realize crime is not for him." With ears like those, why wouldn't you wear a hat or a mask to hide them whenever you are committing a crime? Number 3. Terence Cole. Britain's worst burglar, Terence Cole, attempted 6 robberies and bungled 5 of them, but was spared from spending the rest of his life in jail. The judge pointed out that, during Cole's campaign, he was described as Liverpool's worst bank robber. He also said that if Cole had been good at robbing banks, he would have faced a life sentence. Cole ended up receiving 12 years for his shenanigans. For 11 days, between November 23rd and December 3rd, Cole from Liverpool, England, went on a crime spree and tried to rob 6 banks and a bookie, failing every single time except one. When he was finally successful, he made off with only $500 and left the clerk crying hysterically. Cole's meticulous methods in his burglary attempts included brandishing a gray hand brush wrapped in tape. He partially covered the lower half of his face with a scarf to muffle his voice and wore gloves to avoid fingerprints. Despite his attempts to be taken seriously, one cashier thought there was something wrong with the intercom system when Cole demanded cash. He called over a colleague for help, but Cole was gone by the time he turned around. Another clerk, either very brave or very irritated, told Cole to get lost. What motivated Cole to take up a life of crime at this point in his life? Cole had accrued gambling debt and saw no other way out. He admitted to being at a very low point in his life and that he was very sorry for his actions. Number 2. Sharpie Disguise. When they were arrested for attempted burglary, who knows what these 2 were up to, wearing possibly the worst disguises ever. One thing's for sure, their mugshots made headlines and there was some hilarious commentary about their efforts to disguise themselves. In Carroll, Iowa, police received a call about 2 male suspects, Matthew Allen McNally and Joey Lee Miller, trying to break into an apartment. The caller said the alleged criminals were wearing hoodies, had painted faces, and appeared to be wearing holsters. When officers pulled over a car matching the suspect's vehicle and looked inside, they were surprised to see the suspects' faces were not painted on, but drawn on with permanent marker. Their disguise attempts were described as one guy trying out for a Kiss tribute band and the other wanting to know what he'd look like with a beard. The duo was arrested at gunpoint because of the holster comment and charged with attempted second-degree robbery. McNally was also charged with driving while intoxicated. The next part rarely gets reported, probably because it pales in comparison to the marked-up mugshot. A judge drops the charges against both men, saying there was insufficient evidence to support probable cause that that the men committed the crime. There was no evidence that they had entered the building or even tried to. Nobody could prove that either man had a weapon, and no one was ever injured. While they technically got away with it, their mugshots will live in infamy as punishment enough. Number 1. Popeye. Anthony Ward, also known as Popeye, was apprehended shortly after police posted his mugshot on their Facebook page with no accompanying description. The image went viral and was shared 3,000 times. One look at his face, and it's obvious why the police didn't add additional details about the suspect. They didn't need to. Popeye is what one might call the worst face tattoo ever. Seriously, why would you ever commit a crime with a face tattoo like that? Click here to watch one of these next videos.